Before coming to Ukraine, I worked for the United Nations in South Sudan. South Sudan, as many of you know, is a very poor country in a conflict. So South Sudan didn't have roads by then, and South Sudan doesn't have roads now. So when we want to move from one place to another, we have to use helicopters. And I had a lot of opportunities to fly with Ukrainian pilots. That's when I came to know about Ukraine. And I asked myself a question, why Ukrainian? The next thing I know is that Ukraine is home to the largest aircraft in the world, the Antonov. I love traveling and I love drinking coffee. So it's no surprise that one of the first places that I visited in Ukraine is Lviv. So as I was wandering around, I found myself in a coffee shop called Gasova Lampa. I don't know if you know about this place. And the next thing I know is that this is the first gas lamp was invented in Lviv in the 19th century. I said, wow, this is a wonderful place to be. And I have never regretted that I'm here in Ukraine. So the reason that I am here today, I represent an organization called the United Nations Development Program, the UNDP. UNDP is part of the UN family in Ukraine. And one of the focus is that we have been supporting the government of Ukraine and the people of Ukraine is to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. I don't know how many of you heard about the SDGs, but in a nutshell, SDGs with 17 goals is the cornerstone of the Sustainable Development Agenda that world leaders, including President Poroshenko, committed to achieving by 2030. So what is the difference between the Agenda 2030 and all the previous agendas that you have heard before? The fundamental difference is the underlying principles of leaving no one behind, meaning that we have to do everything possible to reach the most vulnerable groups, people. For example, people with disabilities. For example, people who are displaced by the conflict, the women who are out there in the, at the community for the farthest possible. So achieving SDGs and Agenda 2030 requires a very inclusive and holistic approach that needs to engage each and every one of us right here, which needs to engage the government, parliament, civil society, private sector, academy, you and me, so women and men. So this is the very first thing that I would like to say in this forum. Everyone has a role to play, and SDG, if we want to achieve Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, every one of us has to contribute our part. Moving on from the SDGs, what we have been so proud in UNDP and UN family as a whole is that we have been working very closely with the government and with the people of Ukraine, all partners, to support you with the reform efforts. So you may have heard of, for example, the e-declaration, ProZorro, Open Parliaments, UN Innovation Challenge that we have just launched a week ago. That tomorrow at 11:50, we will have a workshop somewhere around. If you look into the agenda, you would find it. So please come and join our workshop to learn about what we have been doing in this area. So the next thing I would like to say is that what is the role of technology in this sustainable development agenda? Of course, it has a very important role to play. However, what I would like also to say here is that while machines are important, machine cannot replace human being. I look at the agenda and I saw that there's one session that is being delivered by a speaker from Taiwan, and I just reminds me of Jack Ma. I think that many of you know about Jack Ma, the founder of the gigantic Alibaba. He said 5 days ago in a Bloomberg Global Business Forum, and what he said is that we as the leaders of today need LQ. What is LQ? Machine and human being have IQ, intelligence quotient, EQ, emotional intelligence quotient. LQ is love quotient. Love quotient, machine doesn't have. So what I try to say here is that we will not be different from machine if we don't put our heart and soul in what we are doing. If we don't do things with our passion and love, and if we don't do things with a clear sense of purpose and value. So please do not fail to ask yourself a question: why we are doing what we are doing? Lastly, I would like to say that this forum is about democracy and about technology, about the civic side of technocracy. I love this. So Winston Churchill once said, democracy is the worst form of democracy, except from all other forms that have been tried. So democracy, democratic choice, reflect the knowledge, the collective knowledge of a community. However, we have been observing recently, globally, we see that it seems, or it appears, that democracy or democratic choice no longer, or appears, I'm not saying yes or no, I say appears, no longer reflects the wisdom of the crowd. So I have a question for you here, all those technology people. What can we do? What would be the solution to ensure that technology is being used for social goods, for good causes, and not being used for bad reasons? What would be, how can we ensure that technology contribute to address global warming, tackle poverty, improve transparencies, address good governance, create more jobs, support the women, those who code. So, and in the end, it's about how to make sure technology contribute to sustainable development, the Agenda 2030, that all of us have a role to play. With this forum is about learning, about exchanging ideas. I look forward to hearing from you, and I wish you all a wonderful 2 days with a lot of fun and a lot of exchange. And I take this opportunity to thank our organizers, our sponsor, for making this event a wonderful, possible and a wonderful time for all of us. Thank you very much for your kind attention.